What we see is a culture who have got the technology to quarry giant blocks of stone, move them to the site where they want to build.
When the laser scanner hit the 12-angled stone in Cusco, the engineers watching the screen fell to their knees. They were not looking at simple hand-carved rock. They were looking at a level of geometry that requires advanced math.
We're looking at a two-phase construction site in many of the so-called Inca stone monuments.
These walls have survived 500 years of massive earthquakes that leveled every modern building around them. The secret is not in the size of the rocks, but in how they are linked together. This new data exposes a construction method that nobody can explain using the tools we think these ancient people had. The official history is officially in trouble. Ancient tech in a modern world. There is a wall in Cusco, Peru, that simply should not be there. It is not just that it is old or that it is beautiful.
It is that it stands on a street called Hatun Rumio and breaks almost every rule we have about how ancient people were supposed to build things. These stones are fitted together with a level of care that is so high you cannot even slide a tiny piece of paper into the cracks. Some of these rocks weigh as much as 120 tons. They are carved into strange shapes with many different angles, and they are stacked without any kind of glue or cement. Even after more than 500 years of huge earthquakes that knocked down all the colonial buildings made by the Spanish, these walls are still standing perfectly. In 2024, a group of engineers from a university in Japan worked with researchers from Peru. They used very fancy laser scanners that can see things in 3 dimensions, along with tools to test how much the stones rub against each other and how they handle shaking. They claimed they finally figured out how these walls were put together. People were very excited about this news. It was talked about like it was the answer to one of the biggest mysteries in the world. But here's the catch. Their answer actually makes things even more confusing. When you look closer at what they found, these walls seem even more impossible than they did before. These walls are not just in one spot. You can find them all over the city of Cusco and in the valley nearby at places like Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo. But the most famous ones are right in the middle of Cusco. People love to see the 12-angled stone. This one rock has become the symbol of how perfect these builders were. It is about 3 feet tall and looks like a rectangle at first, but its surface is split into 12 flat parts. Every single one of those 12 parts fits perfectly against the rocks around it. It is a giant 3-dimensional puzzle where the gaps are almost invisible. No cement, no gaps, no cracks, just one rock pressed against another rock. The history books say that the Inca Empire built these walls in the 15th century. They say the Inca used bronze tools and stone hammers, and that they were just really patient and had a lot of workers. This is the story you hear from every tour guide. But here's the deal. If you talk to a real builder or a structural engineer, they will tell you something different. They will look at these walls and tell you that it should be impossible to do that with those simple tools. It is too big and too perfect. It looks like it was made with tools that would not even be around for another 400 years. This mystery is only getting bigger as we find out how these stones actually move. The first big problem is a matter of physics. The stones in Cusco are mostly made of a rock called andesite. This is a volcanic rock that is very, very tough. On the scale of how hard things are, it is almost the same as hardened steel. The bronze tools that the Inca had are much softer. It would be like you trying to cut through a thick metal bar using a piece of wood.
The wood would break or wear down way before the metal even got a scratch on it. Modern builders who work with this kind of rock have to use saws with diamond tips and very strong power hammers. Even with our best gear, making a rock with 12 angles would take weeks of very careful work. Yet the walls in Cusco have thousands of these rocks. Some people say the Inca used other hard rocks as hammers to slowly wear down the andesite. This is called pecking. While it is true that we have found some hammerstones, that technique leaves a very rough and bumpy surface. And get this, it is not a way to make something smooth. But the surfaces of the walls in Cusco are not rough, they are flat. They are so smooth that when you touch the spot where two rocks meet, you cannot even feel the line. In many cases, you only know there is a joint because the two rocks are different colors. In 2019, a team tried to copy one single Inca stone using only the old tools and the pecking method. They had 5 expert stoneworkers helping them. It took them 6 months just to finish one small rock with 8 angles. 6 months for one simple stone. The walls in the city have tens of thousands of stones, and many are much more complicated than the one the team tried to make. If we look at the time the Inca were in power, which was only about 90 years, the math just does not work. They could not have been responsible for all those stones in that short amount of time, using only those slow methods. And then there is the issue of the weight. A stone that weighs 200 tons is not just heavy, it is so heavy that the rules of moving things have to change. The biggest cranes we have today can lift that much, but they need perfect ground and a lot of planning. The ancient builders were supposedly using just rope and people. One group of engineers calculated that moving a 200-ton block would need at least 2,400 men, all pulling at the exact same time. Think about trying to get over 2,000 people to pull a rope together on a steep mountain path where there's not even enough room for them to stand. The precision of these joints suggests a level of planning that we cannot explain. Architecture of survival. The 2024 research team found something that really surprised them when they looked at how the stones handle earthquakes. They discovered that the strange shapes of the stones are not for decoration. They are a very advanced way to make the wall strong. Because the stones have so many angles and different surfaces that go in and out, they create a mechanical system that is linked together. When the ground shakes during an earthquake, these angles push the energy in many different directions at once. This keeps any single stone from being pushed out of the wall. Basically, this means that the builders in ancient Peru knew about the science of earthquakes hundreds of years before modern scientists did. They figured out how to shape rocks in 3 dimensions to make sure their buildings would never fall down. But the real problem with this new study is that it does not explain how the rocks were cut. Knowing why the shape works is great, but it does not tell us how someone made those shapes in the first place. When you look at the joints using a 3D scanner, you see something even weirder. The surfaces are not just flat, they are almost polished. Some builders who have looked at these walls say the stones look like they were melted or molded into shape, almost like they were soft clay at one point. There is no other way to explain how 2 giant irregular rocks can fit together with no gaps at all. It's like they were pressed together while they were soft, and then they turned back into hard rock. Of course, there is no evidence that the Inca had a way to melt stone.
We have not found any chemicals or high-heat tools that could do that. It is not that simple, though. Without that kind of technology, the precision we see is impossible to explain. Modern stoneworkers struggle to get that kind of fit, even with computers guiding their saws. The fact that the most perfect walls are also the ones that have been there the longest makes it even more of a puzzle. Usually, as a civilization gets older, they get better at building. But here, the oldest walls are the best ones, and the newer ones are not nearly as good. The history we have been told might be missing a very big part of the story. The official history says the Inca built everything between 1440 and 1470, but new tests are starting to show that this might be wrong. When you test organic material found in the walls, you get dates from the 15th century. But that only tells you when the dirt or the grass got stuck in the wall. It does not tell you when the stone was actually carved. If the Inca found these walls already built and just fixed them up or added to them, the dates we have would only show the work the Inca did, not the work of the people who were there before them. Some scientists have looked at how the stones have worn down from the rain and wind over time. This is called weathering. They have found that some of the biggest stones at the bottom of the walls look much older than the rocks on the top. Some of these weathering patterns suggest the stones have been sitting there for thousands of years, not just 500. This would mean the walls were built a very long time ago by a civilization that we do not even have a name for.
Early Spanish writers who came to Peru in the 1500s actually wrote about this. They asked the Inca who built the giant walls, and the Inca said they did not know. They said the walls were already there when their ancestors arrived. They called the old builders the first people, or said they were made by a god. Everyone is obsessed with thinking these were just stories, but why would the Inca lie about building their own city? Usually empires want to take credit for everything. If the Inca said they did not build it, we should probably listen to them. There is also a clear difference in the quality of the work. You can see walls where the bottom part is made of giant, perfect stones, and the top part is made of smaller, rougher stones that are not fitted nearly as well. It looks like someone found a great foundation and tried to finish the building using much simpler tools. This happens at sites all across the country. The best engineering is always at the bottom, and the work gets more normal as you go higher up. This suggests that the knowledge of how to make these perfect joints was lost a long time ago. Secrets under the ground. The idea that there was a lost technology is something that makes many scientists nervous, but it has happened before in history. When the Roman Empire fell, the secret of how to make their special concrete was lost for 1,000 years. People living in the Middle Ages looked at Roman buildings and thought they were made by giants because they could not figure out how to do it themselves. The same thing could have happened in the Andes. A group of people could have had a special way of working with stone that disappeared when their culture ended. One idea is that they used a method involving sound or shakes to cut the stone. Another idea is that they had a secret way to use the sun's heat to soften the rock. We have found no proof for these things yet, but we also have no proof for how they did it with stone hammers. We are stuck between two mysteries. New LAR scans are showing that there are many more structures buried underground that we have never seen. There are entire systems like roads and power-related foundations that are still hidden. As we use more AI to analyze the patterns of how the stones were placed, we are finding mathematical codes. The spacing and the angles seem to follow rules that you only find in very advanced geometry. This means the builders were not just patient farmers, they were master scientists and engineers who understood the world in a way that we are only just now rediscovering with our computers. Every time we think we have the answer, the stones show us that we are still missing a key detail. We are looking at a puzzle that is made of millions of tons of rock and hundreds of centuries of time. The more we learn about Cusco's impossible walls, the more we realize that the people of the ancient past were much more capable than we ever dared to imagine. They built for forever, and so far it is working. What do you think really happened in the Andes? Were the Inca just incredible craftsmen with infinite patience, or are we looking at the remains of a lost high-tech world? Let us know your theories in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries.
Amazing discoveries. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Share this video with friends and join the discussion on what these findings could mean. Your thoughts and questions are important, so let's explore incredible mysteries together.